Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, starring Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, Kenneth Branagh, John Cleese, Robbie Coltrane, Warwick Davis, Richard Griffiths, Richard Harris, and Jason Isaacs, and directed by Chris Columbus. Now, when I saw this originally in theaters, I remember not liking this one as much as the first one. And is it going to remain the same and if yes, why? Let's get into it. Harry Potter, returned by Daniel Radcliffe, is back living with his Uncle Vernon, returned by Richard Griffiths, Aunt Petunia, returned by Fiona Shaw, and his cousin Dudley, returned by Harry Melling, aka the Dursleys. Planning on impressing Vernon's boss, Mr. Mason, and his wife for his career at his job, and they planned too much to impress them, until a house elf, Dobby, voiced by Toby Jones, who honestly was really annoying, visiting Harry and dropping a cake on Mrs. Mason. And that sequence was kind of annoying in a way that it opens kind of a bad door for me. It opened kind of a bad door for me. But here's when it's about to get better. When Ron, returned by Rupert Grint, and his two brothers Fred and George Weasley, returned by James and Oliver Phelps, actual brothers in case you guys didn't know that, come to get Harry out of the Dursleys' house and go to the home of the Weasleys. I love that sequence. It's rather funny. Mrs. Weasley, returned by Julie Walters, gets reintroduced in here, and so does Ron's sister Ginny, played by Bonnie Wright, who was briefly in the last film. And I really like the Weasleys, including Mr. Weasley, played by Mark Williams, and older brother Percy, played by Chris Rankin. And I like that Harry ends up going under a chimney and spoke of a dangerous place called Diagon Alley, which is next to Diagon Alley, in a strange kind of way. Whoever finds Harry in Diagon Alley is Hagrid, returned by Robbie Coltrane, and I like him here the same way as last week. Harry joins Hermione Granger, returned by Emma Watson, in Diagon Alley, and join the Weasleys as we get introduced to Gilderoy Lockhart, played by Kenneth Branagh, who's kind of a dumb character, and he's supposed to be the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. And he annoyed me to death, but not as much as when we get to part 5. Oh, I'll save it till then. Draco Malfoy, returned by Tom Felton, and his father Lucius Malfoy, played by Jason Isaacs, who's an actor I first saw in this movie as a nasty character, and here he plays another nasty character, but I do like him as an actor. Harry and Ron drive the flying enchanted car and almost gets ran over by a train after they can't get through platform 9 3/4, and they get on a tree that can't stop the car and gets hit, and the car gets hit as they get to Hogwarts. And Ron breaks his wand, and when they get to the ground, the car spits out the luggage and the pets. And as Harry says, clearly someone didn't want me back this year. You think? That felt very laughable. This movie is a little too jokey for my taste. Harry and Ron run into Mr. Filch, returned by David Bradley, and Professor Snape, returned by Alan Rickman. Now Filch kind of pains me to watch because he doesn't really like Harry and wants him punished. Like, give the boy a break. And Snape, it's always great to see Rickman back, I'll just say. As Harry and Ron almost get thrown out of Hogwarts, Professors Dumbledore, returned by Richard Harris, and McGonagall, returned by Dame Maggie Smith, keep them around. And it's a shame this is the last time we'll see Richard Harris as this character, because I do enjoy him as Dumbledore, and McGonagall was good here too. Ron gets a howler, which is a rant letter by his mother that yells, and I thought, yeah, this movie's entirely jokey. Professor Lockhart begins class and gets Cornish pixies to attack all the class, and Seamus Finnegan returned by Devin Murray, laughs at them, and poor Neville Longbottom, returned by Matthew Lewis, gets hung, and that was a joke. I couldn't kind of laugh at, I guess. The Gryffindor team are about to train and the Slytherin team interfere to train with their new seeker, Malfoy, and Ron and Hermione step in, and Malfoy calls Hermione a mudblood, which means no magic parents, which is an insult. And Ron tries to poison Malfoy, but poisons himself, and Colin Creevey, played by Hugh Mitchell, who is another character kind of annoying the hell out of me with his camera, but that scene was just a bit badly projected. Like, just badly just filmed. I don't know. Harry serves detention in Lockhart's office and takes off hearing voices. And Harry hears voices to say the Chamber of Secrets has been opened and is written in blood. Filch's cat, Mrs. Norris, is hung with a good scene for how... That was a good scene for how it was acted by the actors. The Quidditch game of Gryffindor versus Slytherin felt a little bit too more intense than last week. It was intense last week, but here Harry is playing Seeker against Malfoy, meaning who knows how good Malfoy is the ball... And the ball that hits people is attacking Harry for reasons I'll get into in a few minutes. But in this scene, felt very John Williams' score in Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, which came out the same year as this, by the way. And Malfoy gets knocked down and almost does the splits, and the ball hits Harry and breaks his arm. And Lockhart fixes kind of Harry's arm and is more flexible, which I heard that actor can actually do it, Daniel Radcliffe. We find out in the next two scenes it was Dobby who got the ball to chase Harry and almost get Harry and Ron expelled from Hogwarts, and Dobby kind of again annoys me. He's like the Jar Jar Binks of this series, in my opinion. We go to a girl's bathroom in broad daylight where no girl wants to go because of Moaning Myrtle, played by Shirley Henderson, who's much older than any student in this movie, and I've reviewed this actress before in Trainspotting. But I like her better here than Dobby, even though she's supposed to be another comic relief. I like her better. We get a Harry Potter versus Draco Malfoy fight scene, but they use wands, and I honestly like that fight until Malfoy gets a snake into the ring, and Lockhart just makes it go up and then down. And suddenly we see Harry can talk to snakes like he did at the zoo in last week's movie. I do like that scene for how gorgeous it looks again. Hogwarts looks really gorgeous in this movie. I like Dumbledore's bird, which is a phoenix named Fox, because he has powers of curing wounds like we will see later in the movie. I really like the effects on how that kind of bird works. Harry and Ron put some powerful spells on cupcakes and make Crabbe and Goyle, returned by Jamie Waylett and Josh Herdman, eat them, and Harry and Ron and Hermione drink the potion to make Harry and Ron look like Crabbe and Goyle, and they find Malfoy, and I like Malfoy's facial expressions, and Tom Felton pulling it off very well. I do love the scene when they both act very funny around Malfoy, and they run into the girls' bathroom where Moaning Myrtle haunts it, and Hermione is a cat. And we lead to the next scene where Moaning Myrtle floods the girls' bathroom because someone throws a book at her, and Harry and Ron find a diary of Tom Riddle, played by Christian Coulson. And Harry writes to Tom, and Tom takes Harry back 50 years ago when the Chamber of Secrets was first opened, and he shows it was Hagrid, maybe. And I like how black and white looked 50 years ago, and that sequence, and how Tom lets Aragog, voiced by Julian Glover, go and hold Hagrid behind, who was the best sequence because how Dumbledore looks now compared to 50 years ago was just baffling. Hermione gets paralyzed near the library with a mirror, and how the dummy looked was amazing. I gotta give the filmmakers credit for making it look like Emma Watson paralyzed. Harry and Ron go to Hagrid's place with Harry's father's cloak, and Dumbledore and the Minister of Magic and Lucius Malfoy show up, and Lucius makes Dumbledore stand aside, and takes Hagrid to Azkaban prison, and that scene was sad, but good acting by the actors, which leads to Harry and Ron following the spiders with Fang. And they lead to the enchanted car in the extended cut. Then we go to Aragog and the giant talking spider, which looked fake. The CGI on him in the spiders and the car gets them back to the ground and saves the day, when it lands on the ground, it looked kind of fake in my opinion. And yes, in case you're wondering, there is an extended cut and I watched it as well. Lockhart said off screen he knows how to open the Chamber of Secrets, and we find out that Ron's sister Ginny opened the chamber from the beginning, and Harry and Ron take Lockhart hostage and takes him there, and as they get down the chamber, Lockhart pretends to faint and takes Ron's wand and tries to get Harry to forget his memories. Remember, Ron's wand is damaged throughout the movies, so Lockhart forgets his own memories, and Ron knocks out Lockhart, and Harry and Ron got separated by the rocks falling from idiot Lockhart's spell. And Harry finds Ginny lying on the ground. Next thing you know, we see Tom Riddle alive and getting stronger as Ginny gets weaker, and sends a snake-looking monster, and Fox the Phoenix bird comes to the rescue and blinds the monstrous snake, and Harry fights it off with the sword and kills it off, and Tom Riddle, aka Lord Voldemort, yes, that's his name, who's alive by the diary, and Harry stabs the diary twice and gets healed by Fox and gets Ron, Ginny, and Lockhart out of there. And it was a good action sequence overall. As Harry, and Ron save the day and gets back on top, and Lucius Malfoy comes in, and the audience finds out Dobby's masters are the Malfoys, and Harry frees Dobby by giving him a sock, and Hagrid gets back from Azkaban, and Hermione and Sir Nearly Headless Nicholas, returned by John Cleese, are back to normal, and Dumbledore starts clapping. As slowly everyone claps. Was a great ending for director Chris Columbus, but maybe it's time for him to move on. The after credits scene is brief, wherein Lockhart writes a book called Who Am I? It was rather hilarious. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 5.9 out of 10. There were some good things in this movie and some bad things in this movie, but I like the returning characters. Some of the new ones were good and kind of bad, and it's not too great, and it was a little too long for 2 hours and 41 minutes, but I still kind of enjoyed myself watching this. So I would like to thank you guys for joining me, and next week I will be back with Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and until next time, sunshine daisies, turn the stupid computer off.